Hey, what's up guys? Today I'll show you a science fiction thriller film, Phase 7. Spoiler ahead, watch out and take care. The movie begins with a couple, Coco and his pregnant wife, grocery shopping in a supermarket for their monthly stock. They wait in the cashier in line, and even taste each other over their preferred chocolates. As they pay for their food, they notice a panicking crowd rushing into the supermarket. However, they keep unbothered while heading to their car and driving on their way home, despite the chaos on the streets. Inside the car, Coco opens about moving out into a new house at Cordoba Sierras, where there are only mountains and trees, but the wife comments that Coco can't even live without a computer at home. They eventually arrive at their apartment building, and Coco parks the car in the basement. Their bald neighbor, Mr. Baldy, is covering his armored car, but stops upon seeing Coco pushing a cart of their food supply, and comments that they must be stocking up for the coming quarantine. Coco nods at Mr. Baldy's comment, and then comments back at Mr. Baldy's car, which seems ready for a war. Coco unexpectedly coughs, and Mr. Baldy apologizes because he thinks it must be from his cigar, but Coco explains that his nervous cough has become chronic. Afterward, the couple restocks their cabinets and refrigerator with food. Suddenly, Coco receives a call from his mother to check on the news. Coco follows his mother's request, and watches the news reporting a rapid spread of the virus in Argentina. The couple then eats dinner, when Coco receives another call, but a recording this time, requesting one family member from each tenant to go to the lobby. When Coco arrives in the lobby, he learns from his neighbor that the medics had taken their neighbors for virus testing. Just then, Zainato comes with his dog, and then Coco relays the information he recently learned to him. Outside the apartment building are medical staff, wearing hazmat suits. One of the representatives approaches them, then announces that their apartment is currently under quarantine, and asks for the total tenants staying in the building. The tenants answer that there's one maid and 16 total tenants, including the family in room A on floor 10. The representative tells them to call 833 if there's an emergency, and the rest of the medical team closes their building with a wrapper. The following day, Coco does an inventory of their food stock and supplies. The wife tries to call through the phone, but there's only a recording saying that the line is broken. Coco then goes to the kitchen to make tea for his wife, but the light bulb in there unexpectedly bursts. When he returns to their bedroom, he informs his wife, who's still trying to call the broken line and watching the news, that the light's broken. The wife gets frustrated, because even the newly bought bulbs don't work. Right then, the news announces that the pandemic alert has risen from Phase 5 to Phase 6, because of the rising mortality cases. Their doorbell rings, and a healthcare worker from the health ministry arrives to check on Coco's wife's health status, which is completely healthy. After the brief checkup, the healthcare worker leaves the room. He's about to leave completely when Zainato appears near Coco's door. The healthcare worker is about to tell him to go back inside, but quickly gives up and exits the building. Zainato asks for an adapter or blades, but Coco pretends that they don't have them. However, the wife opposes and kindly grabs the materials herself from the bathroom and gives them to Zainato, proving that Coco had lied and intends to keep things for themselves. Zainato gives thanks and leaves. Days and nights pass. They kill boredom by playing board games. They save food by eating cereal only, and Coco acts like he's a character from a movie while shaving his sexy beard. Meanwhile, all their lights burst out, which only leaves them with an emergency light in the kitchen sink. Just then, the wife tells Coco that she hears shouting from the hall, which Coco voluntarily checks out all by himself. When the wife tells him to wear a mask first, he only drags his shirt's neckline and covers his nose. Coco reaches the floor below them and finds Lang and another neighbor asking for Zainato to come out of his apartment. However, Zainato refuses to go out because he knows their two neighbors are plotting evil against him, which is true because Lang holds a brick behind him as they convince Zainato to see them. The two neighbors eventually leave Zainato alone, and Mr. Baldy in hazmat suit finds Coco snooping behind the wall. So Mr. Baldy invites Coco outside his apartment, giving him window covers, hazmat suit, and a duffel bag. He then warns Coco to stay away from their two greedy neighbors. Coco then returns to their apartment and shares with his wife that Mr. Baldy had given them a duffel bag filled with light bulbs. The wife then grabs one and changes their bedroom's bulb. Meanwhile, Coco brings the duffel bag to the bathroom and surprisingly brings out a pistol. He poses with the pistol in front of the mirror for a moment and hides it inside the panel box just outside their apartment. Inside the bedroom, the tape given by Mr. Baldy plays on the television. The tape contains information about the New World Order and its Phase 7 plan, aiming to contain the overpopulation if the world's economic falter. However, the wife refuses to watch the tape and reads a book instead. Just then, Coco decides to play with the hazmat suits given to him. The couple laughs at the suit and flirts for a while until someone knocks on their door. When Coco checks who it is, it's Mr. Baldy inviting him to meet in sauna. He still accepts the invite and goes to the sauna, wearing the suit as Mr. Baldy requested. Inside the sauna, Mr. Baldy quickly checks if Coco is feeling well and calls him out for not wearing the mask right. Then Mr. Baldy first shares with Coco that staying in the sauna is a great way to hear gossip in their building, and second is the chat between the two neighbors. Apparently, Mr. Baldy learns from his yesterday's snooping in sauna that the two neighbors are planning to offer a proposal with him, excluding Coco, because they find him too weird to be included in men's business. Mr. Baldy then explains that it's important if he and Coco stay together. Lang eventually arrives along with his son and the neighbor. Lang ridicules Mr. Baldy and Coco's outfits, but Mr. Baldy shuts him down by saying mind your own business. The two then reveal that they gather in the sauna to talk about their problem with Zainato. They suspect that he's ill for always coughing at night and has only a little time left. So they plan to move and quarantine the contagious Zainato alone to floor 10, since the family there is away. They will accompany him until his death. Coco then suggests why not call 833 and have the doctor's diagnosis, but Lang frustratedly replies that they've been contacting the number far too long and there's no answer. The only way for them to survive is to steal Zainato's fully loaded stock of goods. Upon learning the truth, Mr. Baldy denies their offer and warns the two that if they attempt to step on Zainato's current house floor, it's a declaration of war. Mr. Baldy then returns with Coco on their floor. Coco is about to enter his apartment when Mr. Baldy suddenly invites him to his place. Coco then enters and sees the room filled with clutters, machines, family photos, cutout newspapers plastered on the wall, and a padlocked door. Mr. Baldy appears with a toolbox and asks if Coco has watched the tape, to which Coco answers yes, and comments that it's a good video. Mr. Baldy then discerns that Coco didn't really watch it, because it contains horrifying plans. Afterward, Mr. Baldy brings Coco out on the stairs and sets traps on the way. While setting up the traps, he shares that everyone calls him paranoid for speculating too much. He continues and explains there's no virus existing, but rather FASE 7, which is an orchestrated plan made by the New World Order, in order to control the increasing population. When Coco tries to stop Mr. Baldy's delusions, he only fails and just returns to his apartment. Upon Coco's return to his home, his wife is stretching on the bed. When she asks him where he went, he lies, saying he fixed the power in the basement with Mr. Baldy. She then comments that he should prioritize their home first, instead of dealing with others' problems. It's 4 a.m. in the morning, and Coco is trying to sleep. But upon hearing a car's alarm and a glass-shattering noise outside, he gets up from bed and heads to Mr. Baldy's apartment. Coco suggests that they should warn Zainato about the two neighbors' plan at the very moment, before it's too late. But Mr. Baldy says it can wait. Unfortunately, Mr. Baldy is under the influence of a sleeping pill and can't join him. So Coco heads downstairs alone, but he's too late, for the three are already outside Zainato's room. Lang then slams the fire extinguisher onto Zatuno's door, and it opens. Things turn out different, as the prey supposed to be a weakling, is actually far more dangerous. Zatuno cocks his shotgun, and bursts Lang's onion head into pieces. He then shoots the neighbor next, but Lang's son escapes quickly. Coco snoops behind the wall, and climbs upstairs. From afar, Lang's son's panic shouting at his mother to open the door can be heard, allowing Zainato to follow the noise. When Zainato confronts Lang's wife and son, he greets them first, and finishes them off with a quick death from his shotgun. Out of fear, Coco rushes upstairs, and misses the trap set up by Mr. Baldy. He trips on the trap, and the explosion causes Coco's ear to temporary deafness, but he still limps his way to their room, and closes the door. Outside, Zainato approaches his door, listens if someone's awake, and eventually leaves. Just then the wife wakes up and opens the light. Coco then shouts out of surprise. She then cleans Coco's wound in the bathroom, and confronts what he's been doing at 5 a.m. in the morning. However, despite her concern, Coco can't hear her. So out of frustration, the wife throws alcohol on his wounds, and locks herself in the bathroom. Coco tries to talk to her, but she doesn't budge. Eventually Coco gives up, and sleeps on the couch in the living room, when someone suddenly knocks on the door. She then heads to the door to ask who it is, and it's Zainato. Upon hearing the voice, Coco springs up from the couch, and stops her from opening the door. Zainato asks the wife if Coco can help him with his lights at his home, but Coco tells her to answer that they are asleep, and he's still in bed. The wife grudgingly answers what Coco has been telling her to say, so when Zainato asks about Coco's feelings, her frustration grows more, and she leaves Coco alone to deal with Zainato. Unfortunately, Zainato has become paranoid, leading him to kill every remaining tenant in the building. At the crack of dawn, Coco desperately calls for help through the phone, but there's no answer. So he visits Mr. Baldy again, and they join forces to gather stocks from the neighbor's house. But before they proceed with the plan, Mr. Baldy sets up another trap on the stairs. Afterward, the two trespass inside the neighbor's apartment to gather supplies. Inside, they encounter the neighbor's ill wife, asking where her husband is. But she eventually dies, and coughs up fluid as she meets death. Then his daughter walks into the living room, and finds her mother dead. She suspects that Mr. Baldy and Coco have killed her, and she escapes from their house. However, when she reaches the stairs, Zainoto shoots her dead in the chest. Coco and Mr. Baldy hear the noise, and eventually hide behind the wall. However, as they plan to sneak an attack on him, Zainoto sees them through the mirror across the wall, menacingly grins, and then leaves. So Coco and Mr. Baldy fill their bags with supplies, and then search for Zainoto on the rooftop. Mr. Baldy scans the rooftop first, and finds the place empty. Coco then joins him outside, and they find the janitor's closet, with all the dead people that Zainoto killed. Suddenly, one of Zainoto's traps burst, and the two immediately check it out. However, the wife also hears the noise and angrily confronts Coco, who had just come down from the rooftop. Coco explains that he'll tell everything to her later, and follows Mr. Baldy below. Coco once again descends the stairs, and trips on the trap made by Mr. Baldy. He staggeringly reaches the basement parking lot, and reunites with Mr. Baldy. He then leads Coco to follow a blood trail, leading to a girl's corpse inside a bathroom. As they examine the body, Zainoto unexpectedly fires his shotgun, but misses Coco's head. The two hide quickly in the bathroom, and Zainoto shoots the power box behind him, causing a blackout in the parking lot. Mr. Baldy pulls out his glow stick, and rolls it on the floor, revealing Zainoto hiding behind the wall too. He tries to reason out with Zainoto, but they end up in an intense shootout. After wasting their ammunition, the three gather in the center, and lay down all their firearms. But it's not yet finished, as Zainoto and Mr. Baldy face off with knives this time. The two fight in the dark, while Coco guards the door. After minutes of being gone, Zainoto returns to Coco, requesting him to take care of his dog, then enters his car, and lets the impaled knife behind him end his life completely. Coco walks near the building's entrance, followed by Mr. Baldy with a wound on his right arm. They go outside to scavenge medicines in front of the hospital trailer parked in front. However, all the medical staff are dead, and even the radios don't work. Suddenly, out in the open, marauders enter their apartment building, and Coco notices the open entrance. He's about to check inside when the marauder driver exits the car, and is about to shoot him. But Mr. Baldy kills the driver first, while Coco successfully catches all the marauders that infiltrated their building. After the eventful morning, Coco returns home, with his gathered food stock. But his wife gives him a cold shoulder. Later, Coco busies himself by applying covers in their windows, and his wife eventually talks to him. She opens the bag, finds food in there, and they enjoy a handful of snacks together. Unexpectedly, someone knocks on the door, and it's Mr. Baldy's daughter with a written letter, telling Coco to take care of his daughter. Coco then visits Mr. Baldy, who's preparing his gun. Mr. Baldy then gives a key for the padlocked room to Coco, and sees more firearms and weapons. Coco then inputs the passcode of another code given by Mr. Baldy, and sees a refrigerated room, containing more food and goods that can last for a long time. Mr. Baldy explains that he's been preparing for so long, but he can't take them, because he fears he's already infected with the virus. He tells Coco to use his armored car, and bring all his supplies with them to Córdoba Sierras. However, in exchange for all of this, Mr. Baldy brings Coco to the rooftop, asks Coco to kill him first before the sickness spreads more. However, Coco declines and attempts to leave him alone, leading Mr. Baldy to angrily stab Coco's legs. So Coco shoots him on his bald stomach, and escapes through the stairs. Mr. Baldy chases after him, begging him to kill him at once. Suddenly, the father of the family on floor 10 comes out and shoots Mr. Baldy in his bald neck. The movie ends with Coco and the remaining survivors filling up Mr. Baldy's armored car, with their inherited supplies from Mr. Baldy. Coco drives the steering wheel, and they head out to Mr. Baldy's place built at Córdoba Sierras. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.